Muted. All right, we are live and ready to roll.
All right, good evening, folks. I will now call to order the Riverside City Council meeting for January 5th, 2022. Welcome, everyone, and Happy New Year. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Denning.
Here.
Mrs. Franklin.
Here.
Ms. Fry.
Here.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Ms. Lomach.
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield.
Here.
Mayor Williams.
Here. No absent members. Mr. Manager, any additions or corrections to the agenda as presented?
No, Mr. Mayor. Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from the Deputy Mayor and a second from Mr. Maxfield to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Agenda is approved. If you will now all please join me to rise and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, folks. And as is our practice on the first meeting of the year, we have a few individuals that it is important that we remember and pay homage to. First is Marine Corps Corporal Derek C. Dixon. Corporal Dixon was 20 years old when he was killed in Iraq on June 26, 2007. He was a Riverside resident. Derek joined the Marine Corps on July 9, 2004. He was trained as an information specialist. He'd been serving in Iraq since March 25th, 2007, and was assigned to the 2nd Salient Amphibian Battalion, the 2nd Marine Division in the Marine Expeditionary Forces based at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. Corporal Dixon graduated from the Mound Academy in 2005, following his transfer from Stebbins High School in February of 2004. While living in Riverside, Derek was interested in law enforcement and was active in Explorers Post 763 as a teen. He made it a point to stay in touch with his advisor, Officer Jeff Whiteman of the Riverside Police Department. Derek is buried in the Forest Hill Memorial Gardens and was given full military honors as a war hero, receiving the Purple Heart and other combat decorations as a result of his ultimate sacrifice for his country. At this time, please join me in a moment of silence for Corporal Derek C. Dixon. Thank you. We would also like to remember Army Private First Class Laverne Ulmer. Private First Class Ulmer was a member of Company B, 1st Battalion, 9th Infantry Regiment, 2nd Infantry Division. Laverne was a resident of Mad River Township, along with many members of his family. He was taken prisoner during the Korean War sometime between November 25th and December 1st of 1951 at the age of 23. In 2005, remains were discovered near the Pukchin Tarajal POW camp cluster, where 2 returning POWs reported PFC Ulmer had died. Through the use of present-day DNA technology, a positive identification was made, and he was returned to American soil 65 years after his death. Laverne was buried on Veterans Day, November 11th, 2016, and was given full military honors at Willowview Cemetery between his parents, John and Helen Ulmer. I would ask you to please offer a moment of silence in remembrance of Army Private First Class Ulmer. Thank you, folks. I thank the commission. I thank the council clerk for putting those together for us, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to honor those young men who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country and were the best of our community. Moving along on the agenda, I'm sure we've all had the opportunity over the holiday break to read the meeting minutes from December 15th, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Lomach and a second from the Deputy Mayor to approve the minutes as published. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Minutes are approved. As this is our first meeting of the year, there are several housekeeping items that we will cover tonight that will guide us through the next 12 months. The first of those is the establishment of a date and time for our meetings in 2023. Mr. Manager, anything exciting we need to consider or talk about, or could you please guide us through this process as we probably duplicate what we did last year?
Yeah, my recommendation would be unless there are, unless there were scheduling challenges that you all experienced last year, that we stick with the typical Thursday format for regular council meetings on the first and third week and a work session on the second week. And I
fourth
would,
is needed.
yeah, and I would also recommend or advise that, I know last year we did run into some scheduling challenges in the summertime. So if council is interested in having sort of a lighter meeting scheduled during one of the summer months, I believe that was July,
Correct.
that you should adopt that as well as part of the motion this evening.
I'll move to, what is the motion to approve the schedule on the first and third Thursday, striking the meeting on July 20th
By July 6th.
or July, well, I guess open it for this.
All right, so
I don't think we should strike any meetings. I think we should see where our business is at that time. And if we need to, in May or June, we see that it's going to be really light, we can consider that then. But we should keep our meetings on the first and third Thursday, with the second Thursday being work session and fourth Thursday being a work session if needed.
I recommend striking the first meeting of July. It's better, as we plan our summer activities, having knowledge that is going to happen allows us to synchronize our summer plans better.
So, and I will say for the last 3 years, every July, we ended up having one business meeting. And I think one time we had one work session because there was something going on. And so we're always in June, May and June, trying to figure out those dates. And I think that it would be appropriate to put one business, one work session in July and work session if needed. That would be my recommendation.
So I'll advise my motions. I'll motion to approve a first and third Thursday business meeting with a second Thursday work session, striking the July 6th business meeting.
start time 6 p.m.
Start time at 6 p.m.
All right, so we have a motion for Mr. Joseph and a second for Mrs. Lomatch. So to the clerk, we hope to keep the first and third Thursday meetings at 6 p.m. with a work session on the second Thursday as needed, and striking the Thursday, July 6th council meeting in 2023. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, time for meetings and dates are established. On to the election of deputy mayor. First, let me thank Mike Denning for a great year as deputy mayor for our city. Appreciate all of his service and the times he stepped into this role on council meeting nights when I couldn't be here. Are there nominations from the council for deputy mayor in 2023?
I'll nominate Sarah Lomatch.
Okay. Does anyone else have a nomination for deputy mayor? I will nominate. Oh, go ahead.
Brenda was about to.
Brenda? Oh, sorry. I will nominate Zach Joseph. Is there a third nomination? All right, then I'll close nominations. So Madam Clerk, I believe we're going to call the roll and the council member will indicate
Either
their preference.
the one, yes, the preference, yes. Okay. It's Sarah. Zach. All right, Mr. Denning,
Pass.
Ms. Franklin,
Sarah Lomatch.
Ms. Fry,
Zach Joseph.
Mr. Joseph,
Zach Joseph.
Ms. Lomatch,
I'll pass.
Mr. Maxfield,
Sarah.
Mayor Williams.
Zach Joseph.
Sarah.
Mr. Denning,
Sarah Lomatch.
That would be 4 votes for Sarah, 3 for Zach.
Okay, so I'm back to Deputy Mayor Lomatch. And it took me like 3 months of the first year to stop calling my deputy mayor Lomatch.
And I appreciate that and I look forward to serving the city on other positions.
All right.
If
Excellent.
I get elected to those jobs.
Well, the night's young. So moving on, thank you, council members. We'll move on to liquor control. Looks like an update for 501 Woodman Drive. Mr. Manager,
Correct. A typical renewal, no objections and no action required from council at this time.
okay.
What business is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be BP on the
Yeah,
corner,
I think so. Right.
one
at the
down from
corner there.
601.
What?
It's BP. right
BP.
there.
Oh, the BP.
Yeah. All right, moving along on our agenda. If there's any citizens joining us in council chambers tonight who wish to comment on any agenda or non-agenda item, I would ask you to please fill out a form in the back and bring it up to our clerk seated on the dais with us. And there will be 2 different portions of the agenda where we can hear we can hear citizen petitions should anyone wish to speak. We will move into department updates. And for the first set of department updates for 2023, I turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And finance is first, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Garrett in the finance department.
Income tax, we did get a distribution from the CPA on the 30th of December. So that brought us to 9,147,000 more for income tax for the beginning of the year.
Hallelujah.
Is that the final distribution of the year we can expect? There wouldn't be one prior or post 12/31.
Looking at the formal schedule for the tax liability. So we scheduled it Friday. December will be.
So
Just to
to understand,
clarify,
clarify, what we get in January is still posted back to December.
we count what we receive in January in the 2023 budget.
Okay.
So we're
That's
on
all I
for the
need to know.
purposes of counting our revenue,
Okay.
we're done with 2022.
Got it.
So
Okay.
Everything from here
That's
forward
what
will
we
count
need.
as 2023.
and for like the sake of the members of council who don't do boring governmental accounting stuff all day. So we operate all year in a cash basis of accounting. What we're going to vote on later in this meeting is to hire a firm to come in and to move us from a cash basis to an accrual basis. A cash basis is anytime we receive money, anytime we spend money, we account for that money as we receive it or as we spend it. GAAP and the accepted financial statements are in an accrual basis, which means that we account for what we spend when we have made like an invoice, like we're going to pay for something, or when we're expecting, we know we're going to expect some money to come into the city. So the question I have then is with CCA, they're getting our December 30th deposit from them. What is the dates that like the income tax was garnered from our residents that we received that money on? And then when we do our annual financial statements, since we have to operate on an accrual basis, will any of the money that we receive in January be reflected on that accrual basis for the first deposit in January? Like we have to go back and fix our financial statements.
It may be best to let us loop back with you on that, because that gets kind of into the weeds of some of the accounting that we have to get into as far as translating it. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure of the answer off the top of my head. That might be something that we have to run by because we hire a consultant to do that reconciliation every year. So I might want to run that through them too, to see what portion counts for which fiscal years, depending on the accounting basis.
Okay.
If I understand you.
Yep,
Yep.
you're right. 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 So to kind of answer the question here, there is a chance that when the accounting firm comes in and does our year-end financial statements, that we might get slight adjustment upwards from the money that we get in January on our December year-end statement.
Yeah.
I don't know that, I mean, to me, it doesn't matter. I just wanted to know if we backtrack the money.
Yeah.
You know, whether it goes on January for 2023 budget.
Yeah,
We-
true.
I think the short answer is they're gonna find that out.
Short answer is you're reporting.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the main, and to build, and I should share this actually with the public too. I wanted to be sure we show our favorite graph. Everyone's favorite graph, the lovely income tax graph here. Just because you'll recall the last meeting that we had, I think it was in December, we hadn't yet received that payment at the very end of the year. So our last column here, the green column, was still a little bit shy. So we kind of came up in terms of the fourth quarter, we collected about what we thought we would budget. I think the main takeaway here is that we ended up about $500,000 ahead of what we budgeted for the year. So while that's very encouraging, again, year zero, 1 year is not a trend. There is a lot of economic headwinds on the horizon. So the plan is to tuck that excess money into our fund balance. And if we need to lean on some of it this year, then we'll certainly keep you all in the loop about what evolves as this year continues, and we'll keep updating. I'll produce a year two version of this chart that'll help us watch quarter by quarter how things stack up compared to last year as well.
Oh,
Of course, the Right Point note is coming in June. Later on, we can have a first reading of the ordinance authorized. We're also working on with our finance consultant to get an application into state treasurer for the Highland Municipal access. We've been working on that.
Further
Thank you for
questions for
your-
Tom? All right, thank you. And that is an awesome graph, Josh. We
Thanks.
could make that like the city screensaver and Facebook profile.
I have to update the colors for this year. I'll have to pick something cool for 2023, you know?
All right. Okay, and then the administration department.
In administration, I'll turn it over to Mr. Lore.
Thursday, that for that. We're still, wrapping a little bit of that up, and getting everybody settled. But we got that pretty well done, and, it's been a fairly. Next week, I will have a presentation for council, about, electric and gas aggregation. I'm gonna, put together a timeline, and a recommendation for a path forward. Over the last month or so, SOPAC, who you may remember when we talked about this, originally, as well as in the meeting with the Miami Valley Communications Council, where they are working on setting up a program with Palmer Energy. There's a couple options to consider. I'm working on spring through all that information, and putting that into the presentation.
On the aggregation items I guess we'll get more information, obviously. But as citizens ask us, as citizens ask the city, is there anything we can point into now, or should we wait until we have more substantive items from the city staff to give folks by way of what they can expect, what they can go after, what their options are now, et cetera?
People would getting notified of their option and opt out of the program sometime in the spring. And then if they chose not to opt out and they stayed in the program, then they would be looking at getting their first utility bill sometime in summer or the fall. And that would be the first utility bill that would be. So at this point, there's nothing that residents can do. Council will make a decision on that, and then they'll receive some information in the mail as to what can forward and give them out.
Okay, thank you. All right, any questions for Mr. Lord?
Something I'd like to see when we see the rates and stuff that you're gonna give us is what the Ohio choice rates are, to see whether we're helping people or whether it's really going to make a difference to us. Because if we're making this decision to go with one utility, I want to make sure that we're making the right decision. The other thing I'd like to know is how long of a period this rate is good for if we make this decision. How long are we stuck with it? Or how long do we save, whichever
Did they change?
thing may be, whichever.
Yeah, and I do
But I
want
think
to,
we need as much information as we can get.
right. I think what we're going to try to bring you next week. So the first part of this process is really selecting a broker who we want to represent the city to have these negotiations to figure out what rates folks will be paying. So we should have I think an idea about what the broker fee is. In other words, whatever surcharge they put on the rates, we should be able to give you at least some inkling into what that ought to look like. And then and there are other factors to consider when we think about a broker. So that's what we'll talk about next week. And then depending on how council wants to move forward with a broker, once we select a broker and approve all that, then they basically have to go out and try to negotiate for the best rates possible, is my understanding, at least is. So I want to be clear with the public. I don't know that by next Thursday, we'll know you can expect a gas rate of X cents and an electric rate of Y cents. But just to be clear, we should know at least about the broker element of that in order to help council make a decision. I just don't want folks to get the wrong impression that we're going to know a whole lot by next week, because we won't be quite that far along. So.
Okay.
Doesn't, like, Mike, you're talking about the Ohio, like the apples to apples website.
Mhm.
Does that change every Tuesday?
Hmm?
Is that, it updates like every Tuesday, monthly, changes once a month. So it'd be like a snapshot at that point in time of like.
No,
what-
and I understand that. I
Yeah.
just think that if we're going to make a decision, when we make the decision, the final decision,
Right.
we need to have
Comparison.
a good, clear idea of what we're doing.
And the only other thing I would add is a number of municipalities around us have all had ballot initiatives for the energy aggregation. So I'd be curious as well, because obviously the whole point of this is there's power in numbers of what the other municipalities, West Carrollton, those neighboring cities, where they're going. Because if there's a larger coalition building, that gives us more power and more like bargaining tools to negotiate.
Yeah, the good news is we're prepared to have that conversation next week. There's some momentum there. And so we'll give you kind of the full breakdown about where that's at the work session. So.
Well, I've been telling folks who've asked me about it that it probably be the first of the next year. So what you're saying is they can expect it maybe by fall or summer or fall? Okay. Okay, well, that's good news.
Yeah, I think we're certainly on a staff basis trying to move as expeditiously as we can. And I think it's also important to, to Councilmember Joseph's point, to remember that this is something really that a lot of the communities in the region jumped into after the ballot, last November. And so to a certain extent, what we're hearing is that everybody's kind of learning this together in some respects. But I think there is a lot of interest in moving as quickly as we can. So we'll do that as diligently as possible and start next week.
All right. And then we'll move into the Community Development Department and City Manager report.
And I'll actually kick it over to Ms. Holt since she's here this evening for some words about community development.
We have been working on an online portal that citizens can use to submit applications. They're going to start testing this month. The hope to be live, we don't have a date yet, but probably by the summer at the very latest. But there's still a few bugs, so we want to test out and make sure we have a good product that is really easy to use for our residents. And another item, of course, is our planning commission for BPA. Planning commission is actually moving to Wednesday, January 18th, because Tuesday and BPA will not be meeting this month. They are in business, so we're going to move that to February. And other items are land plan. We're very excited about that. We do have some key dates that we need to put in front of you. We're hoping to see a full plan and draft of that by the end of the month. Hopefully get that to the work session, you guys in February. Planning commission also in February, and then hopefully the first meeting with that energy, we're also looking at some of the excellent. One of them you kind of familiar with, the water protection overlay, so water protection district, to a document map for that. But now we're changing some of the language so that it matches cities and other cities. Another thing is looking at our development and our facilities. We want to make sure that it aligns with the things we see in our operations plan and make it easier for our residents and developers to use these products. The last one is our property maintenance. We are working with Congress to update that code and streamline that.
Any questions for Naya? Yes.
What happened to the motorcycle business? There by Taco Bell?
I don't know. do know that there.
It's
is-
gone.
Yes. Several inquiries, I'm not sure what.
Okay. Just wondered if we knew any.
That the one gentleman that lived, he went, he had also had a shop in Troy. So,
Consolidating
we
maybe.
went to that, yeah.
Yeah. And I can certainly, we can do a little bit of outreach just to try to figure that out too, but yeah, it's what will go in there, I think is kind of up in the air, so. And real quickly, if I can just tack on, just in terms of a general update, I did just want to give the service department in particular, but also fire and police, a big shout out and a thank you for all their work over the Christmas holiday. Obviously, very trying circumstances for the whole region. And we had a number of folks that would have been on plows, but unfortunately were ill and were not able to be out. But I think given the folks that we did have and all their efforts, and I know police and fire responded to a number of calls. I'm just really proud of the work they did and thankful to them and to the directors for their help coordinating all that as well. And that's all I had.
All right, questions for the city manager? We will move along in the agenda to public comment on agenda items. Madam Clerk, do we have any? Okay, there's been no request to speak turned in for agenda items. And we will move right into hello, Mr. Fisher, I believe. Okay, thank you for joining us tonight to speak on an agenda item. If you could please state your name and address for the record and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
And I understand that there's a resolution pending the green zone area of that current farm. And I just have a few comments for the county. I've been a city resident for 10 years. Actually moved from Indiana in January of '03. And been in the area ever since. And we've been very fortunate to have that beautiful farm right across our street. In fact, we're greeted by its horse most every day. And throughout the years, we've had a number of vehicles stop and apparently just about to see the horse. But we've learned about potential rezoning of that area. And just a few comments, if those rumors or comments are true, that we potentially have a 90 additional families move into that farmland area, would cause a significant ripple into the traffic of Union Schoolhouse Road and feeding into Valley Street. So hopefully that would be a consideration as you consider that rezoning request. I know that as a resident of that area of the schoolhouse, you know, we are on the low side of the traffic. We're further from the 4th Street Boulevard intersection. But with that new development, there's great potential for a significant traffic. We've had occasional speeders through there. It's definitely a nuisance, and I would suggest that would greatly improve the new neighborhood coming in through that part of the school. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
All right, thank you, sir. And
But
we
can-
will,
Can we make a point, though, that we're not voting on any?
Yeah.
yeah,
Tonight.
I'll clarify. So we have two, thank you, Councilmember Maxfield. There are two opportunities at our city council meetings for the public to speak. One is on agenda items, one is on non-agenda items. There might have been a slight error in the speaker. The item, you spoke during agenda item comment. There's no agenda item tonight. There's no vote being taken tonight. There's nothing before the council tonight, nor has there been yet on any redevelopment on or around Union Schoolhouse Road. There is a resolution that cites the BZA in later on in our new business, but it is not, that has nothing to do with any potential planning commission case. So anything I didn't cover there, Josh?
No, just briefly, the resolution before council later this evening that relates to BZA is actually an appeal of a prior decision of a different case that's totally unrelated. That was, I believe, last month. So no worries at all. We're happy to have the comments, just point of order stuff. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, folks. We will move into the new business section of tonight's agenda. We have 3 ordinances which will receive their first reading only tonight. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the first reading of ordinance 23-0-815.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Franklin and a second for Mr. Denning. The city charter allows for the first reading of an ordinance to be read by title only unless a council member requests otherwise. Madam Clerk, would you please read this ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 23-0815, an ordinance amending section 182.26, adoption of the regional income tax agency rules and regulations of the administrative code of the codified ordinances of the city of Riverside, Ohio.
Okay, is there any further discussion or any discussion from members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Mr. Denning,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. And we have 2 more ordinances. The next one is ordinance 23-0-816. Do we have at this time, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the first reading of this ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion from Deputy Mayor Lomach and a second from Ms. Franklin. Madam Clerk, would you please, I'm sorry, the city charter allows for the first reading of an ordinance to be read by title only unless the council member requests otherwise. Madam Clerk, would you please read this ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 23-0816, an ordinance amending chapter 1115.01, accessory buildings and use standards of the Unified Development Ordinance of the city of Riverside, Ohio.
Okay, is there any discussion for members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Mr. Denning,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. And our final ordinance, first reading tonight, ordinance 23-0-817. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the first reading of this ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Denning and a second for Ms. Franklin. The city charter allows for the first reading of an ordinance to be read by title only unless a city council member requests otherwise. Madam Clerk, would you please read this ordinance by title only?
Ordinance number 23-0817, an ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $4,735,000 building acquisition and improvement special obligation bond anticipation notes 2023 renewal by the city of Riverside, Ohio, in anticipation of the issuance of bonds, providing for the pledge of revenues for the payment of such notes and declaring an emergency.
Is there any discussion among members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Denning,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph, Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Ordinance passes. And now we are on to a series of resolutions. Many of these are first of year type things. The first one, resolution 23-R-2815. Mr. Manager, we have several of these ordinances that we are going to be essentially asking city council members to, or appointing city council members to serve as a city council representative to external organizations.
Correct. That's this resolution, the next resolution, and then the third resolution, 2817 those are city manager appointments to the Tax Incentive Review Committee. But yes, at the end of the day, it's all appointing a couple individuals to serve on each of these external boards.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the public is following us. They know what we're talking about here. So the first resolution is for the Riverside 2023 representative on the First Suburbs Consortium of the Dayton area.
I will nominate Brenda. I was on it last year. I've since started my MBA courses, so I think my schedule rightfully will be a little bit consumed for the next 22 months to do a Wednesday monthly meeting. So anyone else? April?
I spoke and I said I would pick up your slot. if you-
Okay. I mean, I could be an
So the two-
alternate.
So the two names we want to put on are Brenda and April, or
Yeah, I could swap you as an alternate.
That's what, you can be the third, because I think they do put an alternate on there.
Mhm.
anybody can go.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
I'll make the motion to appoint Brenda Fry and April Franklin and Zach Joseph as an alternate to the First Suburbs Consortium of Dayton, Ohio.
So we have a motion from Mr. Joseph and a second from Deputy Mayor Lomatch to appoint council members Fry and Franklin to the First Suburbs Consortium with Councilmember Joseph as the alternate. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
And Brenda, your title there is now what?
I'm now the vice chair.
Congratulations. We got
That's
a
great. That's great for
good
us.
Representation. on
Thank you,
that
Brenda.
board.
Our next one, resolution 23-R-2816, is appointing to the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission,
I'll take
a
this.
city of River represents, or city of River rep. Easy to say, City of Riverside representative.
I'll take this one too and nominate Sarah Low Match to the MVRPC.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Joseph and a second from Mr. Maxfield to nominate, or to appoint, I should say, Deputy Mayor Lomatch to be the city's representative with MVRPC in 2023. Is there any further discussion?
You need to have the alternate. Then we also need to vote for the MVRPC Transportation Committee as
Mhm.
well as the Transportation Technical Advisory Committee. This is a long one. So rather than doing each one individually, I say we do as we have in the past and have your list and. who you want.
Okay, so we need a slate basically to approve.
Yes.
Okay, so we have Sarah will be as the nomination or as the motion will read, Sarah will be the representative for the city
Voting
at
member.
MVRPC. And then we need a transportation.
An alternate.
We need
An alter, okay.
Who was the alternate last year?
Was there a staff member?
April was the alternate
Yes.
last year.
Okay,
I was
April's,
the alternate, yes, for MVRPC.
and then
Kathy,
is a staff member able to be a representative?
Yes.
Okay,
transportation's Kathy, and then one of the technicians.
Uh,
Kevin or somebody was her alternate.
Yeah, you can throw Kathy and Kevin in, and we can always, if we need to pinch hit on the staff side.
Player be
I
named
mean,
later.
Yeah, I can certainly fill in, or Mr.
Yeah.
Lord.
What's Kevin's last name?
Miller,
Miller.
And that's for transportation.
yes.
Okay,
MVRPC Transportation.
committee. And
So
then
for the
Transportation Technical Advisory, they're gonna.
city representation at
Same.
MVRPC, we have the deputy mayor as an April and Ms. Franklin. And then for the transportation committee, we have Mrs. Bartlett and Mr. Miller, staff members.
Then
Sarah.
we're missing one, right?
I said Sarah, I said the
You said
deputy mayor.
April and Ms.
The
Franklin.
city's voting member. for
Okay.
the
So
Transportation
to
Committee.
There you
for
go.
there, we have Sarah as the representative.
Anybody
April
writing
as
this
the
down?
alternate, Kathy Bartlett and Kevin Miller for Transportation Committee. We're missing something else, aren't we?
The Transportation Technical Advisory Committee.
Transportation
Those were staff.
Technical-
No staffs.
Yeah, that's where
That's where
Kathy and Kevin go.
yeah.
When does like the discretion come in? You just put it into the minutes what we meant to say.
it will be happening.
Yeah, well, we're not.
Yes,
paid on
you
that,
had,
goodness.
it may have been, I don't know. Do you recall? It was probably on the memo I sent you all.
But that it's, if you're on the exhibit sheet in the packet, so section 1 would be Miss Councilmember Lomatch.
Yes.
And would be appointed the city's voting member. I think this is page 55 of the packet. And that Ms. Councilmember Franklin would be the alternate.
Yes,
And then on the transportation committee, That is the same two names.
Yes,
Page 55.
For section 2, and in
It's
section
Councilmember
3,
3 is.
that would be
Timothy
Ms.
Callahan.
Bartlett and Mr. Miller
Yes.
for both of those.
Thank you for all that they do, because they're the ones who really, really fight for our piece of the pie.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, do you have the slate correct?
I have the slate correct. I do not have the motion. Who motioned?
Zach.
I motioned.
Zach did?
Sure.
Zach motion, Mike seconded.
Okay, I do have
For
that.
the-
Yep, got it all.
April was just named twice. We named Kathy like 4 times here.
Yes, I know what you want, meant. Sections 1 and 2 are for council members. Section 3 is for staff.
Of course.
Yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Moving on. Resolution 23-R-2817 is for the city council to appoint or to approve the city manager's appointment for 2 members of the TIRC, the Tax Incentive Review Council. Mr. Manager, do you want to give us a brief description of that?
Those names would just be Ms. Lori Minnick and Mr. Lore. That would be our 2 nominees to that committee.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion from the deputy mayor and a second from Mr. Denning. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. On to the 4th resolution, Resolution 23-R-2818. And this is for giving us the ability to authorize the city to submit an appeal to the Court of Common Pleas on a BZA decision from December.
Second.
We have a motion from the deputy mayor and a second from Mr. Joseph. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. The 5th resolution, Resolution 23-R-2819. Mr. Manager, can you give us a brief description of this General Assessments Fund advancement?
Yes, 2819 and the next resolution, 2020, are housekeeping resolutions that authorize us to make the usual advances and transfers at the beginning of the year to make sure we have money in the right accounts until tax receipts roll in.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Franklin and a second from Mr. Joseph. All those in favor of Resolution 23-R-2819 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The next resolution that Mr. Roush just described, Resolution 23-R-2820. Do I have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Joseph and a second from Mr. Maxfield. All those in favor of Resolution 23-R-2820 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. And the final resolution, Mr. Manager, 23-R-2821.
And as Mr. Garrett mentioned earlier, this is the housekeeping resolution that authorizes our financial consultant to go ahead and do our required translation of accounts for financial reporting from cash basis to GAAP accrual basis as required by the state.
I moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Denning and a second from Ms. Franklin. All those in favor of Resolution 23-R-2821 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries, and that is the final resolution for this evening. We will move on. Public comment on non-agenda items. Madam Clerk, no further requests to speak submitted. Thank you. And we will move into our first council member comments of 2023. And to break with tradition, I'm going to start with Mr. Denning now. I'm gonna give Jesse a break. I'm giving- Yes.
Happy New Year to everyone. I want to echo Josh's thanks to the service department and the police department and the fire department for all their work during the holidays. I know it was crazy out there. I personally I was lucky the base was closed on Friday, so I just stayed home until late Saturday afternoon. And I hope that most people did that. I did have one question. Did we use the code red to send
Yeah.
people information? Because I didn't get a text or anything.
Let me confirm with the chief. I'm not sure that I will
Where'd you
verify
get
that.
I got an email and a text.
Because I know I didn't and I thought I was registered, but
I thought I was, well,
It could
I
have
was
been that
just
my wife
curious if
registered
we,
me.
if we, at the very least told people to get their cars off the street because
Right.
we're coming through.
I believe we
Uh,
made a social media post at least about the cars. So
And I just want to say Happy New Year to everyone, and let's have another great year like we did last year. I really am happy that our income tax was above what we projected, and hopefully that trend keeps going that direction. But my hope is also that our costs do not exceed our best guesstimates.
Ms. Fry?
I have nothing tonight.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Lomash?
I appreciate your vote of support tonight, and I look forward to serving you again on the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. And if everything goes well with the election, then I'll have the privilege of serving as the president this year. And I appreciate your support. And I do thank all of the employees who did everything they could, including the city manager, to manage the crisis in the city over the holiday, because I know where the axe falls and who takes the blame and the caduce. So good job, Josh. And great job. I know that not just anybody can jump in a pusher. And I didn't expect that Josh would do that. So
I don't have, not having a CDL, I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to. But I appreciate it.
But
Thank you.
anyway, I think we fared okay. I had to get assistance. I don't drive on ice. This southern girl didn't learn to drive on ice. So I'm the hazard, not the people in front of me, but I'm the hazard, and I recognize that. So, but I did have to get out because my business didn't close for the weather. So it was dicey out there. So, but Happy New Year to everybody. And thanks again.
Councilmember Joseph?
You're next.
I'll go last.
Oh. Okay, mayoral privilege. I'm gonna echo, now I get to echo you, Mike. I'm gonna echo the
I want to give Mike a chance.
I'll echo what Mike and Sarah have said. I mean, while we're at home, kind of nuzzled all up with like blankets and hot chocolate, there's people out making sure that we can drive safely on the roads. So I really appreciate the work of our public works and our first responders. I'm also going to take a second to give all of the good vibes to Tom and the finance department and Chris, the administration department, of your upcoming go live. I fully aware of the time commitment and the dedication and the long hours that it takes. So good luck and Godspeed with that. We'll be better for it on the other end. And to the rest of the city staff, Naya, it's good to see you here with your trove of things you got going on. So I appreciate all of your guys' hard work. As always, happy 2023. And I'm looking forward to having that little $500,000 surplus, hopefully make some babies and grow a little bit.
I have nothing.
Nothing? Mr. Maxfield?
Again, just echo everybody's comments as far as with our service staff and police and fire over, the holiday and what they had to do was snow removal and, it was pretty sketchy out there. So thank you for all the time that you put into that. So Happy New Year.
And I wanted to go last because being the first meeting of the year, something that I was able to do last year in January. And the year that I came on council, the December 31st of that year, 2019, I was able to go to church, and the congregation where I go was so kind as to give me a prayer as I became an elected official. And it was given by Archbishop John Carroll when George Washington was inaugurated for the first time. And it sticks with me, obviously, because I went to Carroll High School. And but it does something that I think about a lot. And the beginning of this 28th year of Riverside, I just want to look at a brief passage from it and tell the six of you, as I said at the end of last year, how much I appreciate the work that we're able to do together and how much I look forward to 2023 and a year of progress. We pray for the governor of the state, for the members of the assembly, for all the judges, magistrates, and other officers who are appointed to guard our political welfare, that they may be enabled by your powerful protection to discharge the duties of their respective stations with honesty and ability. So that is my prayer for us moving into the year. So thank you, guys. And we will now move into executive session for the reason listed on the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Denning and a second for Mr. Joseph. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Denning,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Ms. Lomach.
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. And we are